Starting the live. Yeah, we're here on the Diakonos Community Work Group. I don't know if anybody's going to join us, but at least then people will know what we're talking about tonight. But we'll have, and we're here on the back deck. It's the Longard family, and Brandon's here with us today. And hopefully we'll get to a point that we're starting to get people together more, working on what our schedule is and what our process of kind of reconnecting people face to face will be. And actually, I'll just mention here, I'm not sure yet what we're going to do with it, but we can definitely be talking about it. I did stop by, Food for Souls now has a house that they've turned into a day center. And we are looking at whether or not maybe we would do Simple Church and Vespers there. It's on Eastern, which is block west of Rural, on the Near East Side, right? It's just a couple blocks south, or a couple houses south of New York. That's like 233 Eastern. So it'd be on the Near East Side. It would be convenient for maybe at Penn Place in Gladstone to join us if they want to come along at some time. And so that's what we're still trying to figure out what that's going to look like coming into the future. So, and you want to figure out when we would be able to people inside. So right now, just kind of being on a back deck kind of helps. But we'll go ahead and maybe we'll talk about I've been doing a lot of stuff on the group about the image of God and kind of following up on the image of God video that the Bible Project people have been put out a while back. Well, they've been put out a few years back now, and, but we've been kind of had it on the group for a little while. But we won't watch it again tonight. You may want to check it out. It's in the group post under the unit on the image of God. But we're going to talk about a couple of passages related to that, about us human beings being created in the image of God. And the first one that we want to look at is Psalm 8. It's a psalm that Tim Mackey quotes in the podcast, or refers to in the podcast on the image of God, and it's also in the video. They reference it as well. It's a psalm by David, and he was kind of contemplating the whole idea of why are people like they say they are, or why are people, who are people, and why would God even care about us, was kind of what he was getting at there. So let me read it. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic, your majestic name fills the earth. Your glory is higher than the heavens. You have taught children and infants to tell your strength, silencing your enemies and all who oppose you. When I look at the night sky and see the works of your fingers, the moon and stars you set in place, what are mere mortals that you should think about them? Human beings that you should care for them. Yet you made them only a little lower than God, and crowned them with glory and honor. You gave them charge of everything you made, putting all things under their authority. The flocks and the herds and all the wild animals, the birds in the sky, the fish in the sea, and everything that swims the ocean currents. O Lord, our Lord, your majestic name fills the earth. So, I mean, it begins with this proclamation about the greatness of God, but then it shifts to this whole wonderment about God caring about human beings and about where human beings fit in the whole created order. Why does God care about us? He's kind of wondering. Maybe he was looking around at him and he going, man, there's some people here that I'm not sure why you care about us. Maybe he was looking inside himself and going, I'm not quite sure why you think I'm important. We don't know. It's interesting. A lot of times verse 5 is translated, in a lot of the versions it's translated, you made them a little lower than the angels. And we actually see when this verse is quoted in the book of Hebrews, which will be the passage in Hebrews where it's quoted later, that's what the Greek language had begun to translate Hebrew word. But the Hebrew word is Elohim, which can mean the gods, or the heavenly beings, or the divine beings. So it has a lot of other perspectives, and it basically, or the translations kind of vary in it, and it depends on the context. A lot of people look at the context and they assume it means angels, but then some translators will actually say the gods or God or something like that. But in that poem, he's identifying that whole idea of human beings being created in the image of God and being given authority over the rest of creation. So there's this kind of a sense of we're given the responsibility to take care of the world on God's behalf. And part of what it means to be in the image of God is that is our that's a part of our role. I mean, maybe that's even what being in the image of God is. It's that responsibility of caring for the world. And it presents kind of a positive image of what humans, even in our fallen state, even in our fallen nature, that we have a positive and something good about us. Even when we haven't fully embraced the image of God in our lives, we still have some of it sitting within us, even if it's a tarnished view of the image of God. Also, you look at churches. A lot of times today, Tim Mackey brings this up in the podcast. I think it's really good. A lot of times we in the church today, particularly in conservative circles, it's kind of like we focus on the image of God, or we focus on the fall, I should say, instead of the image of God. It's kind of like we focus on humans are really messed up and they need God to fix them. But one of my friends who's a pastor posted recently, he said, before there was original sin, there was original good. We have to remember that God has given us this honor in this creation, this relationship with Him, of sharing the responsibility of stewarding the world. I think if you're looking in the camera, you can see the maple behind me, and we have to take care of the tree that's in our yard, and many of the other trees in our yard, and plants in our yards. So many trees in our yard, yeah, just like Elena just reminded me. And these trees, or these things that we care for, that's part of what being the image of God is, that we take good care of it, that we try to represent to the world that we are being good caregivers for the things that God has made around us. So we're going to jump ahead. I want to look at Hebrews chapter 2, and this is where the author of the book of Hebrews quotes this passage. Now, in the context, he's showing how Jesus is superior to the rest of the angels. He's showing how Jesus is superior to the angels, because apparently people at that time were starting to worship angels and in the church, and he was like, the angels aren't quite the same as Jesus as the Messiah. But the author of the Hebrews says, and furthermore, it is not angels who will control the future world we are talking about. For in one place the scriptures say, what are mere mortals that you should think about them, or a son of man that you should care for him? Yet for a little while you have made them a little lower than the angels, and crowned them with glory and honor. You gave them authority over all things. So the author of Hebrews brings in that whole idea of us having authority over all things. And he says, now when it says all things, it means nothing. is left out. But we are not yet seen, we have not yet seen all things put under their authority. What we do see is Jesus, who for a little while was given a position a little lower than the angels because he became human. And because he suffered death for us, he is now crowned with glory and honor. Yes, by God's grace, Jesus tasted death for everyone. God, for whom and through whom everything was made, chose to bring many children into glory, and it was only right that he should make Jesus, through his suffering, a perfect leader fit to bring them into their salvation. So he kind of presents Jesus, or the author of Hebrews presents Jesus, as being that fulfillment of the perfect human. Now, he's both God and man, so he's fully human and he's fully divine. But yet, Jesus kind of realized what a human fully created in the image of God and living out the image of God can be like. And as we seek to be like Jesus, and as Jesus, through his death and resurrection, has opened the door for us to be in that type of a relationship with God where we can seek to be more in his image. Jesus really points us to what it is to be the perfect image of God, and gives us and opens the door for us to be able to live into that, where maybe we haven't been able to do that. And he brings that out in us. And I was thinking about this quote. I've been kind of pondering this a little bit from C.S. Lewis, In the Way to Glory. And we will talk about kind of this stuff after it. But and this is something else that Tim Mackey pointed out in one of the podcasts about this passage. There's a section here that's really kind of challenging. And it says, "The load or weight or burden of my neighbor's glory should be laid daily on my back, a load so heavy that only humility can carry it, and the backs of the proud will be broken. It is a serious thing to live in a society of possible gods and goddesses, to remember that the dullest and most uninteresting person you talk to may one day be a creature which, if you saw it now, you would be strongly tempted to worship, or else a honor, or else a horror or corruption such as you now meet, if at all, only in a nightmare. All day long we are in some degree helping each other to one or other of those destinations. It is in the light of these overwhelming possibilities that it is with awe and the circumspection proper to them that we should conduct all our dealings with one another, all friendships, all loves, all play, all politics. There are no ordinary people. You may have never talked to a mere mortal. Nations, cultures, arts, civilizations, these are mortal, and their life is to ours as the life of a gnat. But it is immortals whom we joke with, work with, marry, snub, and exploit. Immortal horrors or everlasting splendors." So he's in Lewis's book, and I don't know that I would draw all the out of it, but a couple of things he says there make me kind of go, oh, well, I'm not sure how that fits in. But I look at that and I go, I'm challenged with, how do we treat others around us? Do we treat them as if they have the image of God in them? Because really, in our interactions with others, and the main point he's getting at here is, we either encourage the image of God in others, or we bring about their destruction, destruction or push them away from God in what we do. So let's I added Sam into the conversation. I don't know if he's going to join in or not, but we'll see if he does, because he's been watching. Or Sam, you can just type questions or thoughts in too if you want. But let's kind of talk about it. What kind of things stand out to people, and what questions does it raise? Just this whole idea of being made in the image of God. You thinking?
Pondering.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's flattering to be made in the image of Him. I myself always kind of think, He made the world, He made all these things, and He had time to make me and the time to look after me. And in my own experience, the things that I've done in my life, the fact that He's stood with me the whole time, and just overall good feeling of just His patience and His love, and the fact that I'm made in His image, and I see that now, and it's just a really comforting thing. So
I think it is.
I was thinking about the verse from the lips of children and infants He is ordained praise. I mean, I think it's said a different way in that passage. But,
Yeah.
So this is a child declaring God's greatness.
Okay, so we're going to put this on mute. This is a child declaring God's greatness. We'll try to picture later.
Quite done with it.
Not done with it.
Anyways.
Oh, all right. Well, just like that, yeah, on the video. Anyway, so yeah, but I think that is true. That we children do declare God's greatness. I think of what you're saying, what Jesus said about how, we have to be careful how we treat those who are younger, how we treat those who are weak in faith or younger in the faith and things like that. Because if we cause others to stumble through our actions and through our words, and through our disregard or our disrespect of them, we really put ourselves in a place of being at danger of God's punishment for the way we treat others, for not treating people well. I think a lot of this, the image of God stuff, I'm thinking of, these weeks in relation to the whole thing with Ahmaud Arbery and some of the other instances we've seen lately that have shown up of more racism happening. Oh, Sam says I definitely agree with you on that. Good. But I think of the whole, a lot of the racism going on, and I'm thinking when we treat others poorly because of they're from a different ethnicity or a different background, or if we develop fear towards people, because of their race, we are disrespecting the image of God in those people. And back to what Lewis said about how we can almost bring about either we're encouraging the image of God or we're discouraging it, and we're tearing them down and bringing them down to be somebody lower than themselves. I think that's part of what we have. The danger of racism is that we treat people lower than who they are. They can fall into that pattern. Then they can become lower than who they are. So, any other thoughts? Well, I think we will just kind of wrap things up here. And we'll just kind of, we'll kind of just kind of finish up here talking a little bit around the table, wrap up the live stream part of it. Hey, Sam, thanks for joining us. And we will talk to you guys later.